On today's Adventures by the Book, what we're going to be doing is tightening a DRZ chain or tensioning a DRZ400 chain by the book. And the book I'm referring to is the Climber's Manual. Great manual if you own a DRZ and you want to do any type of maintenance items like tension your chain, change your oil, or rebuild your engine. This is a great resource to have, so highly recommended. So I'm making this video because a lot of the chain tensioning videos I see don't really explain one of the most critical parts of chain tensioning, which is free play. And what I'd like to explain to you right now is what free play is. I'll do the best of my ability to do that. So let's get started. So I'm going to move you guys right here so you can see my artwork. Let me push that down. So my lovely artwork, what I have here is a chain and sprocket setup, rear sprocket, front sprocket, chain going around it. We'll say this is the bottom part of the chain, the part closest to the ground. And this little dot right here represents the middle of the chain because you check free play in the middle of the bottom part of the chain. So what we would do, if you can kind of imagine that if you were to take your fingers and pull up on this imaginary chain and make a mark, say that dot right there, and then let it go back to where it was, and then push down all the way as far as it'll go, and then you make a mark right there at that dot. So that right there, from that dot to that dot, is your lower length of free play, and that dot to that dot is your upper length of free play. So from what we want is the complete length from here to here, and that is your total free play length. And that's you add the amount of downward free play to the amount of upward free play to get your total. So let's do an example of this. So the total free play length for a DRZ400S or SM or E model is 1.6 to 2.0 inches or 40 to 50 millimeters. So that length right there is what we're talking about. And this length is how you determine if your chain is too loose or too tight. So a chain with too much free play or too much slack in it, it's very loose, what can happen is it can jump off the sprocket. Or a chain with too little free play, meaning the chain is too tight, can put undue pressure on the front output shaft or the front sprocket right here. You can kind of imagine if your rear wheel is back here, your swing arm goes up and down and up. So that tends to add tension, tighten the chain as it moves around as you ride. So you don't want to have too much free play, and you don't want to have too little free play. So you want just the right amount. So I've got a spare piece of chain right here. I've got my sample piece of chain here and my tape measure. I'm going to try to demonstrate what free play is. So you would put your tape measure on the floor and lock it up like that, and pretend this chain is on your bike and this is the middle of the chain. And what we would do is I would line the tape measure up with one of these lines right here. It doesn't matter which line, we're just trying to get the overall length of how far it goes down if I push it down, and the length of how far it goes up if I push it up. So what I generally like to do is I'll raise my tape measure up until one of these, like this 5-inch line right here, is perfectly in line with the bottom of my chain, and then I will push it down. Let's say if I start pushing it down with my hand and it goes down, let's say 5/8 of an inch, and I let it go, it springs back up, back to the 5-inch line. Then I push up on the chain, say I push up, 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 and let's say it goes up to the 4-inch line, I let go, it comes back down, back to the 5-inch line. So basically the length that went down was 5/8 of an inch, and the length that went up was 1 inch. So if you add those two together, you get 1 inch and 5/8. You have an 1 and 5/8 free play, which if you look at the spec for the DRZ, 1.6 to 2.0 inches, that falls perfectly in spec. 1.58 would be on the lower, the tighter end, 1.6 inches. So anyway, so I hope that kind of explains free play. We're actually going to do it on the bike. It's a little quick demo there. So what I'd like to do next, I'm going to go ahead and lay out all the tools. I'm going to go ahead and lay out all the tools you're going to need. You're not going to need many, but you'll need a few. So when I get that done, I will get back to you. So I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. So what I want to go over with you now is all the possible tools you may need to do this job, which there's not a lot, but there's a few. So I got them laid out here on the workbench. Let's just take a look. Okay, so this chain tension video is based on the DRZ model, which I have right here. This is my S model, not the E or the SM. But the E should be exactly the same as this tension-wise. The SM uses a slightly different tensioning system. I have it over here, right here in the book, if you want to see that. That is the tensioning setup for the SM. So we're not going to go over that. I can, if anybody likes, I could go over that. But for this video, we're going to be covering the tools for the S. So what you're going to need, a 22 mil socket, 24 mil socket. If your DRZ has a cotter pin on the axle nut, you may need a pair of needle nose to undo that. I have two 1/2-inch drive sockets, ratchets for my two 1/2-inch drive sockets. And I have a torque wrench for the final torque value when we're all done. I have a tape measure to measure the free play. If you do have an SM, you'll probably need a 10 millimeter wrench, I believe it is. I'm not 100% sure. It could be a 12. I think it is 10 millimeter to loosen those little nuts right there and turn the adjuster nut there. Don't quote me, but I think it is 10. Maybe not, but no big deal. You will also need one other item right here. You will need a rear wheel stand of some sort. Since this is by the book, the motorcycle has to be upright for this. The wheel can be off the ground or on the ground, does not matter. The way this is a Harbor Freight wheel stand that I got a few years ago. Good score if you need a wheel stand, rear wheel stand, that is. The nice thing is this rear wheel is firmly on the ground. All the weight's on it. This is just basically holding the bike up. So anyway, so you'll need a way to have the bike upright. And what we're going to do after you get your bike upright, we're going to take a tape measure and go from there to roughly right there. Okay, and we're going to get a total measurement from the nut, the middle of the front sprocket, which I'm not going to pull that cover off. I know it's roughly right about where my finger is, to the center of our rear axle. So that measurement I already know. I mean, I can pull the tape measure out and show you, but it's 26 inches. So if the complete length from there to there is 26 inches, the middle would be half of that, which would be 13 inches. So I would measure from here up 13 inches. And I will tell you, I already know where that is because I've done this a million times on this bike. It is right in front of the rear tire. It's right about here. So when I measure this chain for free play, I'm going to measure right at this point. I usually use the bottom edge of the chain. It's just easy to line up with the tape measure mark. And then I'll pull down, and then I'll get the reading, and then I'll push up, and I'll get the top reading, and that will be my free play. So what we'll do, that's how you check it. And if it's out of adjustment, if it's either too much free play or too little or too much, then what we'll have to do is we'll have to get our tools. We'll have to loosen our axle nuts, our axle nut right there, and we'll have to turn these adjusters right here to either tighten or loosen the chain. So we'll go ahead and I'll demo how to do that when we get back. All right, we'll do that here in just a minute. Okay, we are back. It's time to tension this chain. We're going to check it first. So by the book, we've got the bike vertical on a rear wheel stand right there. I've got everything set up down here. I've got my tape measure. I found the midpoint at the bottom of the chain so we can check the free play. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to see if the chain actually needs to be tightened, which hint hint it does because I loosened it for this video. So let's go ahead and I'll set you guys down here and we will check. I think you guys can see that, hopefully. It's not critical that you see the numbers on the tape measure. As you can see, I put the tape measure in the middle of the chain on the bottom. We're going to push down and get a measurement and push up and get a measurement. So I had it set at the 2-inch line, so if I push down as hard as I can, I get about 3/4 of an inch. Bring it back. So I'm measuring from the bottom edge of the chain right here. Right here's my midpoint where my finger's touching. So if I started at 2-inch, at the 2-inch line, inch and a half, okay, that's going to go up to almost 2 inches by itself. So this chain is extremely loose. So I got, what did I get? I forgot. 3/4 of an inch down, just about 11/16. Then, you know, 1 3/4 up. So it's well over the 2-inch free play. And you can move the tape measure and you just grab it right here. You can, hey, look at that. That's pretty darn loose. That's way loose. Whew. Okay, so when we come back, I'm going to show you how to properly tension this and what it's going to look like. I'll be back in just a second when I get that set up. All right, so we're ready to go. I've got the tools. I have a 22mm ratchet and a 24mm socket on this ratchet. So the left side here with the captured nut is 22mm. We're going to put that on there. We're going to hold that. So the other one goes on the axle nut right here. We're going to loosen that. If you notice, this particular model of my DRZ does not have a cotter pin, so if you had a cotter pin, you need to remove that now. So I'm going to explain how these adjusters work. So this plate, if you see, there's numbers from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 7, and in between there's these little divots. These little divots right here. And these divots lock into this permanent pin on the swing arm. So as the number increases, 3, 4, 5, as you go up towards 7, it slides the whole rear wheel assembly back. It pushes against that pin. And essentially it ends up tightening the chain as the rear wheel goes back. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to loosen the nut on the other side with our tools, and then we're going to have to slowly click this up until we get proper tension on the chain. So let's do that right now. So hold that. I'm going to loosen the nut over here. I'm not going to take the axle nut off. I'm just going to loosen it quite a bit. Not so much where the wheel wants to slide around. So the wheel is slightly off the ground right here, which will allow this to slide back and forth easy. So what we're going to do is we're going to crank this up. All right, one. I'm going to crank it up 2 notches. So we're in the notch, 1 notch before we get to the dot on the number 4. So there's an exact twin of this on the other side, which we have to put it in the same exact spot that this one is. So let's go do that. All right, got a little bit of light. Let me tilt you guys up a little bit. You can see that. Some light over here. All right. So I need to, there's my number 4, 3, 4. So we have to click this up. Now, if it's hard, you can whack it with a mallet or loosen this a little bit more. This is still not loose enough where I can turn it by hand, but so there. All right, there's the dot on the number 4. We got to go one more groove. There. All right, I'm 1 dot, 1 notch before the 4. Okay, there's one quick thing I want to add to this video. I kind of messed up and didn't explain when I was tensioning the adjusters. You saw me click them forward 2 clicks on both sides, and I didn't really explain what I was doing there. So I knew that 2 clicks forward would put my chain in proper tension, because that's where it was before I started the video when I loosened it. So your results may be different. So you may have to go 1 click, you may have to go 2 clicks, you may have to go 3 clicks. I don't really know. So you'll just have to do a click at a time, check your free play. If it's not enough, do another click, you know, and so forth until you get the proper free play. So I just wanted to explain that. No, I knew where my tensioner needed to be set at ahead of time. That's why I clicked it. That's why I advanced it 2 clicks. So hope that makes sense. I'm going to interject this. I'm going to try to interject this piece into the video right where right after I show doing that. Okay, that's all I have to say. Thanks. So they're exactly the same on both sides. So that means the rear wheel is not cocked one way or the other. All right. Now, there's a little trick to this. When you tighten this back up, these plates will want to move on you as you tighten the nut. So it can throw your adjustment out. It doesn't want to stay on these pins. These things will spin. So what I like to do, get the tire a quick pat, make sure it's all the way forward. So the trick to tightening this axle nut up and having these not rotate and spin while you do that is a rag. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take this rag and I'm going to put it behind my chain guard, and very carefully, don't pinch yourself, I'm going to wind a little bit of this rag up in my chain right there. You can feel the tension that it creates. It wants to spring back forward. So the rag is between the chain and the sprocket. What that is doing is it's putting a whole lot of forward pressure on the axle. It's pushing this plate into the pin on both sides. So now I can easily tighten that nut up without I might have to put my knee on it to make sure. So I'm going to tighten it up. And we're not going to torque this yet. I'm just going to get it fairly tight. Okay. Just double check. Okay, they're both the same on both sides, so I'm going to take my towel out. And now we're going to come back over here and check the free play. Right there. So 1/2 inch down. One and an eighth up. So 1 1/8 up with 1/2 inch down. So that would be 1 5/8, which is 1.6. So it's on the tighter side. So this is what a properly tensioned chain should look like. Right about like that. That's about how much slop on your DRZ you should have. All right. So you don't want to go any tighter than that, as that is on the tighter end of the spec, but it is in spec. So now we have to, I didn't torque my axle nut. It is tight, but it is not torqued. So I'm going to go ahead and get my torque wrench and torque it. The torque spec is, I'm not going to do it on camera, but the torque spec is 74 foot-pounds if anyone wants to know. And that's it. That's how you adjust your chain. That's what free play is. Let me turn this light off. That's what free play is. Generally, it's about realistically, it's like a 5-minute job. Geez, I don't know how long this video is. It's kind of crazy, all the breaking down all the steps. It takes quite a bit longer than I initially thought it would be. I thought this would be but thinking it through, all the little steps that you need to know by the book, setting the bike up vertically, checking the free play, and then loosening and then turning the adjusters, making sure both adjusters on each side of the swing arm are exact, and then rechecking the free play, then torquing your axle nut down to 74 foot-pounds. That's essentially it in a nutshell. And that's it. That's how you tension your DRZ400S chain. The SM tensioner is a little bit different. We're not going over that in this video, but that's really all I got to say. So if you like this video, you found it helpful, please like and subscribe. Leave me a comment if there's any other types of how-to in-depth things you want to know about the DRZ400. Let me know. I'm open to suggestions. All right. Thanks a lot. Bye.